has been handled, so we are good to go for the committee. May not even have time to get to it, but just in case, I wanted to be ready. We're going to start by working a couple bills today, committee. We'll start with the short, simple one. Shouldn't say it that way, sorry. But I will draw your attention to House Bill 2028, which is the bill that we heard yesterday. I believe it's probably fresh on everyone's mind, but just to follow normal practice, we will allow our reviser to give us a fresh reminder of what House Bill 2028 does. Reviser Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2028 would require the Department of Wildlife and Parks to offer discounted resident senior combination hunting and fishing passes to residents of the state who are 65 years of age or older. And it would also remove the expiration date for the Kansas Kids lifetime combination hunting and fishing licenses.
Questions of our reviser committee. Senator Shane.
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment.
Okay, well, we're asking questions of our reviser. Okay. It's just a moment, okay. Wanted to be the first in line. I got that. Okay, I see there are no questions. I don't know if we have any amendments or not. Oh, Senator Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have an amendment. While Reviser Lawrence and team are passing that out, I'll just go ahead and explain it. The amendment simply eliminates the current two categories or two different age groups of kids and just creates one new age group that goes up to the age of 15 or 15 and under. So I guess you could say that as up to 16 or under or 15. And to create just a single maximum license fee of $400. My reasoning for wanting to do this is one, I'd like to see us encourage young people and children all the way up until that age that they're really, required to start taking on full licenses and successfully completing hunter's education and everything by age 16, but helping to bring those young people into the outdoors and participating in our great outdoors and hunting traditions and fishing traditions in Kansas. I think this is going to be a great benefit. I know in my own personal experience, there are a number of kids in kind of that 10 to 14-year-old age category that I've personally taken out and exposed them to their first opportunities to hunt and fish. And I think this would be a welcome addition to help bring that age group into consideration.
Do you wish to make a motion, see if we get a second for discussion?
That's right. So I'd move my amendment.
All right. You've heard the motion to amend House Bill 2028. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Ballou. Discussion on the motion, and the way that we would say this is not, don't even use 16 because it's 15 years of age and younger. So if you say 16, it would be under age 16. But and just for clarification, because sometimes in the legislature we confuse issues with numbers. But discussion on the motion, Senator Ballou.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate this amendment. I was looking up hunter safety, and I didn't do my hunter safety till I was in 4th grade. And so a lot of kids don't have an ability to get their hunter safety till maybe, it says 11 or younger is when it's free to the state of Kansas. I looked at yesterday. And I really enjoyed that time with my dad. Now, how many times have I gone hunting since? Not a lot. But I will say, I think that at 11 years old, and I really did enjoy hunter safety, my dad probably would have bought me a lifetime hunting license if this was available back then. And so, and at this discounted rate. So I think that this is much needed, and I really appreciate the amendment. And I also appreciate that it simplifies it and that we don't have 2 tiers. I was looking at possibly doing a 3rd tier, and I thought this is just too complicated. So I appreciate this, and I definitely support this amendment.
Additional comments, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do we have a fiscal note on this?
Senator Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Fagg, no, we do not have a fiscal note on this.
Okay.
Senator Fagg.
So I really like the intention, what we're trying to do. I worry about we cut a deal today, how that's going to affect us 20 years from now, you know, with everybody carrying these licenses around, because this whole thing's built on fee income. And so we do a good deal today, how's it affects us tomorrow? That's the thing that I'm worried about. So I probably would not be, I'm in support of the idea. I kind of question on the last day doing something like this. It needs to be researched a little more. Thank you.
Senator Ware.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And to kind of dovetail on what Senator Fagg was talking about, this department in particular is dependent on fees. And while I love the spirit of the bill and you know, why not just make them all free, you know? But we can't do that. So, and the idea of hunter safety, that can fit in wherever. But I love the spirit of it, but I think we're getting too far into the giveaways on this, unless we're ready to start giving Wildlife and Parks a lot more SGF money to support their doings. Because if there aren't parks, if there aren't the folks to manage the whole system, because the fees have gone down so much, there's not going to be any reason for anybody to want to go hunt. So.
Appreciate the discussion, the thoughts. We will always have children born in Kansas, so there will be future generations, future opportunities for $400. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we should have a little more discussion on just one fee. I think that may be appropriate, but the department will get money every year from that lifetime hunting license. And this would encourage, because that's what my husband and I have given to our, actually his nephews. But this would encourage us to wait till he's 15 and 8 months and then say, oh, here's an early 16th birthday. And so it really doesn't add at all to those years that the department would be collecting those fees. So that's my hesitation.
Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First thing I want to say, Representative Corbett, I told him before when he spoke last year, he shouldn't be chewing gum, but he did. And so I don't know if I'm going to vote for it because of that. But no, in all seriousness, I do like the spirit of it, and I'm also concerned what other people are saying here. And I was wondering if the maker of the amendment would be interested in changing from $400 to $500, if you'd be acceptable with that for substitute motion. Thank you.
Well, if you wish to make a substitute motion, it really doesn't matter what he thinks.
I'd like to make a substitute motion from $400 to $500.
So you're using, to make certain before I look for a second, you're using the balloon, you're making one change, the $400 figure would be $500, but all the rest of the balloon would stay in place.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
There is a substitute motion. Is there a second? Seeing that there is a second, Senator Ware. So we are on the substitute motion, and I think everyone understands pretty much what the substitute motion would be. Strike the 400 in the box on the right and insert 500. So we would leave the ages the same. Senator Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd leave this to the will of the committee. I mean, I think the selection of the dollar amount is a little bit, it's a little bit arbitrary, right? You're just kind of pick a number and go with it. At any rate, as long as it's a discount, then I think that that's acceptable. The thing that's important to remember is, of course, as the chairman said, there are new children being born in Kansas every year, new folks that can participate in this. And when you, right now, let's say even at the $400, if that license is purchased for that child, that equates almost 8.5 years of purchasing licenses for that individual. And if they never, ever hunt in the rest of their life, the department captured more revenue from that individual child than they would have otherwise by having that available. And also importantly, for our Kansas children that do end up departing the state, for the purposes of hunting and fishing, are considered residents for the rest of their life and have a lot of incentive to come back to Kansas to spend money and participate in the outdoors. That potential value and that ability to access, especially for Kansas whitetail, to access resident whitetail tags, is a really, really compelling reason to come back to Kansas to hunt if you leave the state. So with that, I would leave the conversation of 400 or 500 up to the will of the body. I don't see it as unfriendly necessarily, but still believe that there's a lot of merit, and I firmly believe that the potential fiscal ramifications to the department are likely minimal at best.
Additional discussion on the substitute motion? Seeing none, Senator Reichman, do you wish to close?
I close.
All right, you've heard the motion to amend House Bill 2028 with the balloon, with the change to $500. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. So the balloon is adopted with the figure of $500. Additional amendments on 2028. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a conceptual amendment because we didn't see this amendment until this morning, to change 15 to 7. So the real thing that we're talking about is an incentive to purchase that license earlier. And there is no incentive if the age is 15, right? At that point, you might as well, I mean, you can wait until somebody's 15, get the benefit of a lower fee, and lose those extra years of match. I know when Senator Shane was explaining this, he's saying this helps because it's that many more years, but I don't see a lot of years between 15 and 16, so that would be my concern. Anyway, I would make that a motion.
And to clarify, the just adopted amendment, you would change the 15 years of age to 7 years of age?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Ware. Discussion on the motion. Senator Bowser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at page 1 of the bill here, line 2627. Seems like with this proposed amendment, we're right back to where we started, 6 or 7 years of age and $500. I don't see the point of the motion, really. We're kind of right back where we started.
Senator Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what I was going to say. It's just, this amendment would just increase fees for 0 to 5. And it's supposed to be an incentive? So I do not support this amendment and ask that you vote it down.
Additional discussion on the motion to amend. Seeing none, Senator Francisco, do you wish to close?
Can I make a substitute motion?
Well, I would prefer you withdraw your motion.
I would like to withdraw my motion.
Okay, just a moment.
If the second would also withdraw.
Okay, so the motion is withdrawn.
And offer an amendment to say 8 years of age or younger.
So there's a motion to change the 15 years of age or younger to 8 years of age or younger. Okay. Is there a second on the motion? Seconded by Senator Ware. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, Senator Francisco, you can close on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very concerned about doing this without information from the department to know how this would affect their fees. And it's not the amount that's being paid by the person who's buying the license. It's the match from the federal fees that are collected on ammunition and on fishing gear. So I would move my amendment.
All in favor, you've heard the motion to amend House Bill 2028. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to fail. Motion does fail. Back on the bill. Are there additional amendments? Senator Fagg. That's fine.
Okay. You know, I sure agree with what Senator Francisco said about weighing in from Wildlife and Parks, because they have a little history now. And I think this is something that we need to think about very carefully, because we're here today, and I go back to this 20-year deal. If we've got a bunch of people running around, we've kind of committed our fee structure for a lifetime. And how that really affects what's going to go on, we need to be careful with that. And for us to do this on the fly on the last day on an amendment without Wildlife and Parks in this, I concern myself with that. So I'll be a no on this for that reason. I love the intent, but I'm worried about the fiscal and long-term ramification, unintended consequences. Thank you.
Additional discussion amendments on 2028. I do have a conceptual, I guess it's conceptual. You didn't write the balloon, did you? Okay. It's pretty simple, committee, and will you see the words July 1st, 2020 to amend that to January 1, 2025? That gives additional opportunities to have conversation with the House. So I would make that as a motion to change the July 1, 2020 date to January 1, 2025. Still goes back, but I just don't know why they use July 1, 2020. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Francisco. Discussion on the motion. Senator Fagg.
Is January 1 long enough, Mr. Chairman? When we say discussion with the House, are you thinking this will be some action be done next session? Or in conference? Oh, okay, in conference, okay.
This bill passes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Additional discussion on the motion. All right, I'll close on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. We're back on the bill as amended. Additional discussion on the bill. If not, I'll entertain a motion. Senator Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we pass out House Bill 2028 favorably for passage as amended.
Motion by Senator Blue, seconded by Senator Shane. Discussion on the motion to pass the bill out favorably as amended. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. Senator Francisco.
I would like to be recorded.
As a yes. Oh, I didn't hear what you said. Senator Francisco wishes to be recorded as a no. Senator Ware wishes to be recorded as a no. And additional votes want to be recorded? Okay. Thank you, committee. We will move to now a more simple bill. House Bill 2172. We will receive an update, a reminder on House Bill 2172 by our reviser of statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2172 would establish the Water Program Task Force to evaluate the state's water program and funding. As currently drafted, the task force would have 23 voting members and 10 non-voting members. The task force would be required to evaluate risks to the quality and quantity of the state's water, steps to define and achieve an ongoing multi-generational promise of water, and evaluate current funding for water.
Thank you. Questions of our reviser? All right. The chair believes that the numbers are too large. You get too many people in the room trying to come to an agreement. It's more challenging, but we shall see what the committee's desires are. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment. If Revisor Lawrence could pass that out.
Senator Titus, would you care to explain your amendment, please?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So The first thing you'll notice at the top is I happen to agree with the chair's comments that this task force was a little heavy on membership. There have been a lot of conversations about water over the last couple of years, and I thought a more nimble group might be able to be more productive over time. And so you'll see the total voting members is reduced down to 12. But as we walk through the pages, I'll be happy to explain what has happened here. So we've added the chair's designee for several of these positions just to give some more flexibility on who's on there. We've eliminated several of the specific appointments by leadership. On page 2, then, we've eliminated all of the specific callouts to organizations. Those groups will be present in the room, as well as all of the ex officio members that are called out and who have been eliminated from membership. They can certainly share, but they don't necessarily need to be non-voting members on this task force. And then we did add in several members to balance the numbers back out. It was expressed to me by some of the proponents, it's important to have legislators who've not been involved in water issues have some exposure to this. So on the bottom of page 2, you'll see a member from the House, a member from the Senate who don't sit on this committee or House Water and Ag Committee, so we get some diversity of membership. And then to make up for removing all of the specific groups that were identified, the Speaker and the President will get together and select 5 members of the public that have to then meet. We have a whole list of qualifications if you're a non-legislature later on page 3, which it essentially lists all the special interest groups that were called out on page 2. All of those qualifications exist on page 3. So the people that are appointed have to fall into one of those categories. So I think we've made this much more nimble in regards to the actual task force. And then on page 4, I have a rather, well, I'll say this, page 4, line 12. We saw the presentation from Ms. Lorenz about, and the water offices use the terminology of a multi-generational promise of water. I've been uncomfortable with that language from the beginning because they didn't know exactly what it means. I don't know what it means, and in some places, there's just not enough water, so I'm hesitant to put that into statute. So I believe the intent is right, but I've changed that to a future supply of water to just so we're not putting the word promise in statute. And after that is an entirely new section, and my goal with this new section is I want to make sure this is a productive task force. We heard some testimony about the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Yeah, it had some long trickle effects, but it didn't have a real immediate impact. So the co-chairs of this task force, per this new bubble amendment, would be tasked with selecting a group of 5 individuals that are lawyers, geologists, engineers, familiar with Kansas water, have been involved. And I've set forth a list of priorities, and the idea of this smaller group would be to take the information that's fed to them from the task force, do some independent work, and rewrite the Water Planning Act. So the Water Planning Act manages the Water Office, the Water Authority. It has all the statutory priorities for the water plan, and the idea is they will create draft legislation that will be presented about the same time as the task force report, but we'll have an actionable item at the conclusion of this process. And the reason I targeted the Water Planning Act is if we want to have a serious conversation about putting a lot of money into water and working on these projects, that was put in place in the late 70s, early 80s. It needs updated in statute. Basically, I want to make sure we can build the structure that we put the money into so that it can handle what we want going forward. And I think it's appropriate to review that and update that legislation before we dump a bunch of money into it. And so I hope I've created a group that can be productive and bring us solutions to seriously consider right out of the gate next year. So with that, I would move my amendment and would be happy to stand for the many questions that I'm sure will come.
A thorough, well-thought-out amendment. Hadn't seen this, but is there a second to the motion to amend? All kinds of seconds. We will go with Senator Bowser. All right, discussion on the balloon amendment. I do have a question of reviser. Does the legislation, I didn't see it in a quick glance, specify who will be the chairs, the co-chairs? And the reason I ask that is the last balloon on page 4, that the co-chairs of the task force shall appoint, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look on page 3, starting in line 34, then subsection E, it says the Speaker of the House shall select one member who is a member of the House to serve as co-chair, and then the President of the Senate would also select a member of the Senate to serve as co-chair.
That answers the question. Thank you. Discussion on the balloon. Senator Bowser.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank Senator Titus for bringing this amendment forward. Committee might recall that I asked Mr. Armstrong during his testimony if he thought the size of the committee was too large, and he did agree with that. So I appreciate this amendment. I'll be supporting it.
I will add that the chair of the Senate Ag and Natural Resources Committee appreciates at least a portion of this, because if I don't want to serve, I can appoint one of you or someone else to appoint. So it would be the chair's designee. It also allows for Senator Ware to have an appointment, or she can serve on the task force. Additional questions, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also thank you for bringing this forward, Senator Titus. The number 12, should we think about 13 or 11, just so that that goes, just a thought?
Senator Titus.
Senator Titus.
You know, that's just sort of where it worked after the cuts. I assume it'll get worked out in conference. I don't anticipate this being a controversial sort of decision-making process at the end of the day. So I would leave that to the will of the body if you felt like we needed to add one in, but that might be best to have the chairman take to conference as well.
Senator Fagg.
I would agree. I find that sometimes people miss this type of stuff, and that's an important thing. So either we have 11 or 13 going into it, or the chairman be aware of that, know that we come out of conference that we've addressed that. So that's my opinion.
Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, the hero of the day, Senator Titus. I like this in general. At first, I was concerned about cutting the committee down so much because it looked like maybe we were going to lose stakeholders. But as I look further through it, you seem to have caught all the details here. I'm impressed. Thank you.
Senator Reichman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for the maker of the motion, this amendment, did you have some help? Who did all you contact to come up with all this?
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I visited with all of the government stakeholders, with the governor's office a little bit, with the Department of Agriculture and the Water Office. I talked with the professional engineers, a lot of the usual suspects, the Farm Bureau, to try and make sure that they were at least aware of the direction I was headed, and they were mostly, they understood the intent, and I had a little dialogue, but I didn't get a lot of pushback.
And I will add that I was aware there was an amendment to reduce the number. I just didn't know exactly how it would all be played out. Senator Reichman.
Thank you, and thank you.
Senator Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is maybe just to build off of Senator Fagg's point, just as an idea to circulate. I'm not going to propose this as an amendment, but I'm wondering if we want to, if there's interest in achieving an odd number or having a tie-breaking vote of some sort. I'm wondering if instead of having co-chairs, you could move to an appointment of a single chair, and then that chair would either create the odd number or cast a tie-breaking vote, just as an idea. But Senator Titus maybe like to respond to that.
Should be, if this amendment should be adopted and this legislation go through the process, the chair will keep in mind that the committee is urging an odd number. Senator Titus, did you wish to address it?
I would just say if it would make the most sense where we have the Speaker of the House and the Senate of the President jointly appointing members of the public. I think changing that from 5 to 6 would be the cleanest way to get us to 13. I think perhaps if it's okay with the chair, we would just, if we adopt this, we could just do a very easy conceptual amendment to change that 5 to 6 after we do the big bill, so it's clean for the revisers.
Additional discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, Senator Titus, do you wish to close on your amendment?
Just like to thank Revisor Lawrence. We started on this, I don't know, a month ago, so to make sure there was a lot of work that went into cleaning it all up. So appreciate that and all the nice words, so thank you.
All right, you've heard the motion to amend House Bill 2172. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. Senator Titus, you said that you probably would have a conceptual motion to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 2, in the bubble, number 8, I would move that we change 5 members to 6 members, and I would move my amendment. And then on page 1, line 8, we would need to change 12 to 13.
So there's a motion to amend, conceptual amendment seconded by Senator Fagg, and I think everyone understands. Questions on the motion? Seeing none. No, Senator Francisco.
Just a comment. I also think changing 5 members to 6, jointly appointed by the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, give them each 3, so we won't have as much of a fight on that. So I think this is a very appropriate place to make that change.
Okay, I see it as we just gave them, we potentially are giving them an additional member to fight over because it says jointly. So, but I understand your point. Additional discussion on the motion to amend the conceptual motion. Seeing none, do you wish to close? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. We're back on the bill as amended. Further discussion on House Bill 2172. Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking on page 3. There were a lot of really good changes made in the amendment. I'm just wondering what the difference between a Kansas employer with a vested water right and a commercial user of a municipal or industrial right might.
Can you help us understand where you're looking at?
Lines 1 and 2 on page 3.
Okay.
It's got to be an employer with a vested water right.
Is that something, Revisor Lawrence, that you can help us with on page 3, lines 1 and 2, the difference? Is there any difference, or do you know?
I'd want to put a little bit more thought into this, but I believe in line 2, it is specifically targeting municipal and industrial water rights, and line 1 is not as specific.
Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've made some changes with, taking out all the ex officio members. So I would hope the conference committee would be open to looking at the specific individuals that you can pull from. Because I think some of these non-voting ex officio members, yes, will be in the room. Geological Survey is obviously going to be very interested, but I don't know that they all will be.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I did not write this original language. My thought on page 3, line 1, is they put in the word employer because there are a lot of vested rights owned by irrigators, and they're trying to capture, I think, more of a commercial impact would be my guess. And so they didn't want to list just a large vested water right. There are a few of those that may be in commercial or industrial use. I suspect that was the intent, to get out the small ones, but we'd have to seek further. But the point of the conference, I think, is well taken.
Senator Francisco.
Yeah, and it says specifically commercial on line 2. So I think this puts us in a good place, but I'd like for the 3 members who are going to be, I'm guessing this will go to conference, and the 3 members who are serving on that conference committee to just have heard that with the changes on page 2, we might also want to look specifically and have some leeway with the listing on page 3.
Chair's disappointed in your pessimism. I expect the House to concur with the Senate amendments. Additional discussion on House Bill 2172 as amended. I would entertain a motion on the bill, and I would, before a motion is made, urge that we make this a substitute bill because of all of the striking, make it simpler for us to read and look at. So it would say Senate substitute for House Bill 2172, but that would be up to the will of the committee. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the House recommend, or that the committee recommend favorably for passage Senate substitute for House Bill 2172.
So is that all the motion needs to be?
I don't think if we make it a substitute, we don't have to say as amended, right?
Okay. Seconded by Senator Shane. Discussion on the motion to pass out favorably as a substitute bill. Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion appears to pass. Motion does pass. So that takes care of House Bill 2172. Committee, we do have a few minutes left, and I had no idea what type of time frame we may have, and so I have asked to make certain that we don't send you back to your office with nothing to do, that we go ahead and have a brief presentation from the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and this presentation stems from the fact that we have a bill in this committee that we did not get to, and that is Senate Bill 130, which we will not have a hearing. This is not a hearing on Senate Bill 130, but this is some information on the topic of the legislation. And my understanding is Deputy Secretary Olson will be making a presentation, and you do have a handout in front of you. Deputy Secretary Olson, welcome to the committee. And AFI, could you tell us what in the world is AFI?
Certainly. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to close out your final moments on this committee this year in discussing our Animal Facilities Inspection Program. So if we could go to the second page, it's actually there at the top of the next page. But I know we're tight on time. I'll try to keep this condensed. But if I was going to leave you with 3 things today about this program, I'll start there first, and they're not on my slides, but I want to make sure I highlight this. So the Animal Facility Inspection Program is a program that was built by the industry. They've carried the legislation, they've brought it forward over the years, and it's really been self-governed in many ways. Secondly, it is our most scrutinized program in our agency, and I'll get to that. You'll see some of those facts, the statistics later on in the presentation. And then lastly, I take a lot of pride in the fact that during my time at the department, as well as under Secretary Beam's direction, we have made some significant improvements to this program, and we have a more consistent program when it comes to funding, as well as how we're enforcing our regulations. So some 3 key points that I think are worth noting that hopefully that you'll see come out of this presentation. So what does the AFI program do? We inspect and oversee companion animal facilities that are required to be under regulation per the statute. There's a list here that explains the various types. This can be dog and cat breeders, anyone who is selling more than 3 or more litters in the state during our fiscal year, pounds, shelters, animal rescues. These are both public entities as well as private, not-for-profit entities. Pet shops, if you go to a pet shop that carries animals, that falls under our regulation. research facilities, distributors, so anyone who's moving animals across state lines, whether they're located in-state or out-of-state, and then as well as our boarding facilities. Think dog trainers who are housing animals for an extended period of time where they might be training them to some capacity. Next slide, I'll just speak briefly on it. We'll quickly go past it. We can think of our team in two different ways. We have our field staff, which are conducting the regular inspections. We have 3 inspectors and 1 investigator, and then our office staff, our program manager and our administrative assistant. And then this program is unique. We do have an attorney who solely supports this program, unlike our other administrative functions that work across all programs at the agency. Okay, next slide. We're going to flip right past this one. You can go one more. Our program year, our license year goes from October to September. So when we talk about 23, 24, it spans that time frame. This is a quick snapshot of what the work is done by that team of 6 that I just mentioned. We conduct around 800 inspections on any given year. 473 of those were routine. We've got 98 complaints, 82 pre-license inspections. So new companies, new businesses, new individuals who are coming want to be regulated or want to fall under the licensing. We have re-inspections. So if they fail an inspection, our team has to go out within 30 days to re-inspect them to ensure that their activities or those issues have been corrected and modified as necessary. And then limited scope inspections. So we will routinely take complaints on licensed and unlicensed facilities. And so our limited scope inspections are falling under, you'll see those fall under there. And then 30 no contacts. So one of the statute changes that was made a few years ago was that when our inspector shows up, the licensee has 30 minutes to arrive on site or someone of their designation to be there to be present for our inspection. There is concerns potentially that if they knew their inspectors were coming, they would do a better job of making sure water bowls were filled and feces were removed. And so there is a no contact statute that prohibits us from notifying our licensees before we go. There's then also a penalty assessed if they do not come in that period of time. So all of those inspections covered by those 3 key inspectors, our team drives over 76,000 miles a year. While we were sitting here, I did the quick math. That's approximately 100 miles a day per inspector based on 260 working days a year. These guys are on the road. They cover the entire state and cover all of the various licensees. Next slide. This is just a quick overview of the current licensees that we had in the most recent fiscal or licensing year. You can see there's city classes. Those are broken down by the size of the city. We have rescue networks, animal breeders, so on and so forth as I laid out a little bit ago. Next slide. On the complaints, so I mentioned that we routinely receive complaints, and they come from all types of individuals who are maybe purchasing an animal from someone, individuals who have maybe their animals kept with someone. We get all types of complaints. So there you can see we have complaints against our licensed facilities as well as facilities that are unlicensed. And then our team has to go out, conduct those inspections to determine if that complaint was valid and whether or not, if they're unlicensed, do they need to be licensed based on what we see. Next slide, we're going to skip over there. You can just see the summary of the re-inspection and no contact fees. It's also important to note on the following slide for closed licenses, we do also conduct a closing inspection, and we see businesses come in and out. Sometimes that is a lot of work to track down. If an individual hobby breeder has decided to move their location, move their residence, oftentimes they breed their animals at their homes. So we track those down. We also have in the 2023 license year, we had a number of Tractor Supply stores change to Baumgars, and they stopped carrying their their animal facility license as bomb guards. So we had to go out and conduct those inspections to ensure that they did not have any animals on site, or if they did, that they were being properly handled and moved to according to statute. Next slide, we have an overview of our Open Records Request Act, so CORA as we often refer to it. AFI receives our highest number of open records requests in any given year, and you can see over the last 10 years how that has fluctuated. I apologize, I didn't have good numbers on 2017 and 2018, but I can, with confidence, I can say that those numbers would have showed a gradual increase from 12 up to 66. The next page on the AFI reason to believe letters, these are ways that which if we have suspicion that someone is operating that should be licensed, we will first initiate reason to believe letters. Sometimes these are people who once carried a license, they maybe got out of the industry, they've come back, and we have reason to believe that they're operating. So those are some statistics about what happens when we send out those reason to believe letters. There, on the next slide, if we look at enforcement, as I mentioned earlier, we have an attorney who solely supports this program, and you can see here a summary of the orders that were issued in the most recent licensing year, ranging all the way from our civil penalty orders down to formal legal letters. We do, at times, send out cease and desist letters if someone chooses not to be licensed and they are, but yet they continue to conduct business. We do go so far with cease and desist orders. If we flip to the next slide, we do have, sometimes these legal cases go to district court, and we go beyond our first line of work starts with the administrative hearing proceedings, but we have been sued, and there have been cases that go on to various district courts, and you can see the most recent list of those on that slide. So I appreciate the opportunity to stand up here. I know the chairman mentioned SB 130 is the bill that we brought forward this year, that we worked on various ways to get language that both the regulated industry, stakeholders in the industry, and the agency all supported. There is, as we go through SB 130, for the sake of time, I won't go through these slides, but you can see the information that we have held regular meetings to conduct listening sessions with individuals to understand their concerns. We've had multiple iterations of the bill brought before the legislature of varying degrees, and we have continued. We believe that SB 130 is a bill that, while we still may have differences in the bill, we believe that they are jointly supported issues that we would like to bring forward for the legislature to consider in the future. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you in this committee, and I will be glad to stand for any questions that you may have.
We have just a few minutes for questions. I can't believe, and maybe this was because of the fact that you put this presentation together really quickly, that you don't have your CORA request for 17 and 18.
I do apologize for not having that information, and I will, if you are interested in that information, I will gladly provide it to you.
Well, it's not so much that I'm interested, but we prefer complete presentations in this committee.
My apologies.
Committee, do you have questions of Deputy Secretary Senator Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I could CORA request a CORA request. But out of curiosity, what are folks seeking to get? What are the nature of those CORA requests for this program?
It is, so to be clear, we do get CORA requests about CORA requests. That is something that our agency deals with. But they range from anything from a list of who are the licensees currently, what the inspection reports are. Did someone pass? Did someone fail? What were the violations that they received? We even had one this week asking for the most recent legal proceedings for a pending case, of which we do not provide until cases are closed. But anything and everything you can imagine, we receive requests for information on.
Senator Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I can remember a couple of years ago when we had the no contact, and appreciate your report here. Is that still an issue? Do you have a lot of those no contact issues?
Well, I appreciate the question, and we have seen, I could provide a slide of where we've seen those drop. It was an issue of struggling to reach licensees prior to the no contact, and we can show that those number of no contacts have decreased because there is a $100 penalty if they are unable to be there within that 30-minute window. So there is still some. We have 30 in the past license year, but that number has gone down once that no contact statute came into effect.
Thank you.
And that was something for the new members that we had fairly lengthy discussion about, was the department show up unexpectedly and, hey, get here in 30 minutes type of a thing. Still not comfortable with that, but that's in statute, so we'll leave that alone. Additional questions of Deputy Secretary Olson? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry that page pictures made me miss some of the presentation. But my question is, when it's necessary to seize animals, what do you do with them? How are they handled? And, you know, at one point, I think the state had a facility, but we no longer. So if you could comment a little on that.
Certainly, I appreciate the question. So you are correct, Senator. We did, many years ago, the state did maintain a facility that we could house animals for when they were seized. I can't speak to the exact year, but that property is no longer maintained and rented by the agency. But 2 years ago, the legislature authorized some additional funds for the department it started with $50,000 so that we would be able to help cover the cost of animals that are seized. So one of the things that we do not seize animals without good reason and after taking multiple steps to get to that point. So I want to be clear there. But when there is reasons that there's animal welfare issues or they are simply unable to care for the animals, simply not complying, we can go in and seize animals. We then work with our shelters to house those animals. In the meantime, there's a period of court processes that have to occur in order to take over the ownership of those animals, and then ultimately relinquish them to those shelters. The $50,000 that the agency has is spent to help reimburse those shelters who volunteer their space for their time and their costs that they incur. But I can tell you that while the funding that we have has been useful, and we did spend all $50,000 of it the very first year, it does not fully make the shelters full and complete in the cost of their care that they provide when assisting us in that process.
Committee, I will also direct your attention to the fact that we have written information from the Kansas Pet Advocates on this topic, so I would urge you to read that as well. Appreciate your work, this committee. It's been a pleasure to chair the committee through the ups and downs. We've still got work to do on the floor and through conference, so you may have some input that you need to give the chair, and I would let you know that the chair is willing to hear from any committee member at any time. Take your folder with you as you leave today, because this is our last official meeting for 2025, unless we may need to have a meeting at the rail for approval of minutes. Other than that, I have nothing further for the committee. We are adjourned.